So today we are going to be talking about a bike that I am actually very excited to get my hands on. I do hope that I can throw a leg over it at some point, give you guys an honest first ride review. This is going to be more of a first look. If you do enjoy this content, please like and subscribe. But the bike in question is, it's made out of magnesium. And I had my doubts about these bikes because it's magnesium. I mean, if you remember the old mag wheels, magnesium, when you read about the properties of it, it corrodes really, really quickly. So you have to be careful with it. So when I first heard that they were magnesium bikes, I'm like, I ain't so sure about that. But my fears have been alleviated. So let's just get to the bike. They only do a handful of models. This is the A1 model. It's really more of an all-road bike, which I think is what they classify it as. But let's pull this thing out of the box. And here you have it, guys. This is the beautiful Vaast A1 700C GRX 2x. This puppy retails for $1,900. $1,900 is not bad at all. The frame is the AE81 Super Magnesium frame. I love that it's called Super Mag. The fork is, it's an all-road full carbon fork. It's kind of reminiscent of like a whiskey fork. I'm sure they're getting somebody to make them for them. The shifters, front derailleur and rear derailleur, are all GRX, and it is a 2x. This is the GRX RX400 group set. This bike is 2x10, but for the price of the bike, it's great. So the crankset is going to be a Craxus. What is Craxus? It is a Praxis Alba M24. It's a 4832. Brakes are, of course, going to be GRX, full hydraulic from top to bottom. The wheel set's pretty decent at this price point. It's WTB STI 23. They are tubeless ready wheels and tires. It comes with 37s already on this guy, but the tires and wheels are not set up tubeless out of the box. That is something you will have to do later on. Handlebars, stem, all that jazz is just Vaast proprietary. Looks beautiful, but nothing phenomenal. So that is exactly what the bike comes with. Now, just based off of looks, what do I think of the bike pulling it out of the box? I will be 100% honest with you guys. I was so excited for these bikes because I am a sucker for a steel frame bike with modern components on it. Something about just a steel frame with the smaller tubing and putting like modern disc brakes, modern hydraulic levers, all of that stuff, deep dish wheels. Oh my god, I think those bikes are beautiful. So pulling it right out of the box, obviously, I was in love with it. I think the paint is immaculate. The way they get around magnesium rusting is as much. They claim, Vaast does anyway, that this magnesium metal that they're using is a new, improved magnesium formula called Super Magnesium. Apparently, they have nullified and fixed the rusting issues, and then on top of that, they ceramic coat the entire frame before they start the painting process. So this ensures if you do scratch your bike, it's not even down to the frame at that point, you're just down to that ceramic coating. So I've tried to read a lot of reviews on this thing to see if anyone on Reddit or anywhere has scratched this bike and had rust issues. I can't find a single thing, but I'm a very anecdotal person when it comes to that stuff, so I would love to own one of these bikes for 2 years at least, just to see, and I'm pretty pretty freaking rough on stuff, if I'm gonna be honest. I would be able to test out and see if these frames are gonna hold up. But the tube shapes, everything looks really good on it. I'm not super sure on like the welding process when it comes to magnesium, because these welds on this bike don't look as good as something like the Orbea, which Orbea to me is second to none with how they do their welds on there when they sand them back down and hydroform them. I mean, the Orbeas look beautiful for an aluminum bike. I don't really know the process with magnesium, and I'm sorry this chair is squeaking this much. It needs some chain lube. If you look at the geometry of this bike, because this is something I've always been kind of concerned with, because in an ideal world, I think you should have a cyclocross bike, a gravel bike as well, and a road bike. But if you're like me and you don't have a limited amount of money, I tend to pick one off-road drop bar bike. I always go with a cyclocross bike because I can afford to do way more cross races than gravel races, because in this area gravel races tend to be always on a Saturday and I work on a Saturday. So if I'm gonna race predominantly cross, I'm gonna pick a cross bike. This bike's geometry seems to be very in between a cyclocross and a true gravel bike. It's not as raked out as much as like a giant Revolt, but it's also not as tight as something like the TCX, which is what I currently have. So I think this bike, as far as handling goes, should be somewhere in the middle. I think you should be able to do both, because I will be honest, if I'm coming down a freaking mountain on my TCX, it can get a little sketchy because it's not raked out super hard. So when stuff gets a little wishy-washy, I mean, it's fun. I get through it. It's fine. I'm not complaining. I love my TCX, but I've ridden a Revolt, and that bike is so much more stable than a true cyclocross bike. So the geometry's good, the frame looks amazing. I do like the specs that this bike has at this price point. They spec it right. It is a 2x10. I believe if you were going to do a lot of gravel racing, a double is the way to go, because I have ran out of gears with a single before. Even if I put a bigger chainring on it, you just don't have the range you need for like a super climby gravel race, in my opinion, for me. If you want to be competitive, that's key. Some people just want to do it and have fun. That's perfectly fine, but this thing's GRX, Shimano, it's great stuff. The wheels are heavy, but the WTB stuff is relatively bomb-proof. That's a good wheel set for $1,900, and they're tubeless, so you can, for 50 extra bucks, because I'm not sure if this thing comes with valves or not, but for like 50 bucks, you can convert this thing to tubeless and go to town. Let's throw it up on the scale. I want to show you guys how much this thing weighs, and then we will kind of talk a little bit more about it. So let's go. Let's get to the scale. Yeah, 22 pounds. 22 pounds is not too shabby. Not too shabby at all. Even if you found a full carbon bike that was full GRX for $2 grand, I think it would be close to 22 pounds. But I think this is a 20-pound bike. Easy. I think if you upgrade a lot of stuff on it, you can get it down to carbon race weight. But for 22 pounds at $1,900, dude, that's good. That's very good. In summary, as a first impression of this bike, I think if it wasn't magnesium, and this was just a standard, maybe aluminum frame bicycle for $1,900, I'd be like, that thing is a steal. It's one of the best deals on the market currently that I know about without me riding it. I do want to ride it. The geometry is something that I think is going to work really good. I'm super interested in how the magnesium frame rides. I hear that it rides just as good as steel. If it rides just as good as steel, but as light as this thing is, and stiff, I really want to get into the stiffness. One problem with some of the steel frames that I had when I would play around on them is I could flex the rear end of it super easy, which is why it rode nice. It flexes. I'm hoping that this magnesium frame is going to be super stiff. When you start looking at so many bicycles, like, I'm excited about a new Revolt coming out, a new carbon mountain bike, but at a certain point, you're not, like, surprised. You know what I'm saying? This bike, though, since it was magnesium, it was as light as it was, I was genuinely surprised and excited. I hope This gives you a little bit of insight into this bike, shows you some of the curves on it, because I know there's not a ton of people doing Vaast videos out there, but I was very impressed with this thing. It's also owned by the parent company that owns like Niner bikes. I hope that gives you a little bit of insight into them. I will see everyone in the next video. I hope you are all doing wonderful and staying healthy. I love you all. The next video is going to be all about the 12-hour event that we're going to be doing as a team. It's going to be fun. All right, I will see everyone later. Bye.